Hi, I'm Pastor Mira, and this is Sermon in 3 Minutes. This past week, we started our new sermon series called What Would Jesus Say? And this week, we looked at what would Jesus say to our church? We looked at the scripture from Matthew chapter 5, Sermon on the Mount, when Jesus is talking and sharing the Beatitudes, but then he also talks to his disciples and says to them and the crowds that are listening, be salt of the earth, be the light of the world. As Jesus was saying this, these were common elements that people in that day knew and had in their homes. Salt of the earth. Salt was used at some points as money. It was to exchange and get commodities. It was also used to preserve foods and to purify water. It was even a metaphor in the Bible for wisdom. That's when Jesus says the salt is losing its saltiness. He's really talking about people losing the wisdom of God and how important it is to have that wisdom and to share that wisdom. Salt was also used as a seasoning. And as we think about the work and the ministry of God, my challenge to the congregation was, are you being the seasoning to God's work already in progress? You know, too often here at home and in our families, we assume that God's there when we're there, but God's there even when we're not. And how are we enhancing and working with God where God already is? Then Jesus says to the disciples and to us really, be light of the world. You know, light came into darkness back in Genesis in the creation of the world when God brought light into darkness. And then throughout the Old and New Testaments, we see light as a pillar of fire leading the people out of the Exodus. We see it as the presence of God in many situations, particularly when Moses in the burning bush. In the New Testament, we see the woman using the lamp to find her lost coin. And over again, it's God's presence, light, being brought into dark places. Well, today, our world is still hurting and sad. There's many areas that are dark. And the challenge is, how can we illumine and share Christ's light with others that are hurting, that are broken, that are sad? You know, even this past Sunday, we woke up to yet again another shooting in a house of worship out in California. There are places that are dark in our world, and we are called to bring the light of Christ to them. We looked at this scripture, be salt of the earth, be light of the world, and talked about Carlisle United Methodist Church's updated vision and mission statements, how we are called to make disciples in the world, and particularly in the greater Carlisle area. You see behind me our new banner. This is a summary of our vision statement. It's live like Jesus. So the challenge this week and for our congregation really is to live into, how can you live like Jesus? How can you be salt, seasoning where God is already at work? And how can you share the light of Christ in our dark community, world, and family? That's the challenge. We gave out bumper stickers and hope that you see those around Carlisle and that you really consider how you can live like Jesus today and in the days ahead. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great week.